and welcome to another episode of LOC On The Clock. I'm joined once again by Chris. How's it going, Chris?
Hello, welcome back, everybody. It's been a wild week, but we have got there. I'm ready to review and
excellent.
Review this week gone in the week to come.
Oh, he's going. Live streaming, everybody. Nothing better. It's fine. We'll persevere. That'll figure itself out. So, on the clock. And he's back again. Hello, Chris.
Hello. Sorry, that was because I decided. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I decided just to click something, and it just.
It happens. The joy of line streaming. So this week, Chris, we had a slightly longer episode last week, hour and 15. We're going to go for 45 minutes today. Book it, which I'm sure you would be pleased to hear after your long day. So let's get to it with the recaps from last week.
Perfect.
So we start off with the marquee matchup as chosen by you, as always, Chris, which featured the 2 and 6 Oakland Golden Bears facing off against the undefeated 8-0 Great Scott. Semi-unconventional choice, but it was an interesting game. It was fairly close in the end, 104-86. You know what I'm going to say. Of course, Jeff won this one, moved to 9-0, dropping Freddie to 2-7, and all-time the matchup between these two. I believe Jeff has the lead now. He does at 2-1. Jeff is eternal. Doesn't matter that Roma Dunze doesn't score points, or Tyler Warren, Chris, because when you've got Christian McCaffrey, Nakua, and a rejuvenated Marvin Harrison playing with Kyler Murray, as well as Justin Herbert firing again, that's all we need. Freddie did choose the quarterbacks correctly. We sort of, I was a bit more lukewarm on Bo Nix than you were last week, but I did prove correct. Chris, he outscored him by 20 points, and Caleb Williams got 43 all in all, which is just as well, because only Hunt went over 10 points, and the Packers D for Freddie beyond that, after he obviously splashed the cash on Hunt. He did not get a 1-for-1 ratio on the points, Chris. It was in fact about a $1.5 spent to point ratio there, so... Tucker Crafty unfortunately also lost for the year in this one, but I suppose the result as you expected it. We both did pick Jeff in this one. Chris, anything else to add?
Yeah, you're right. I think the Caleb pick is papering over a number of cracks in the skill positions of Freddie's team there, because no one really did anything apart from Kareem Hunt, as you said. Whilst, as you say, Jeff can carry a man and still carry on over 100 points and win the week. I think that probably tells you where that team is right now. It is an unstoppable juggernaut that seems to be just squashing teams as it goes.
Yeah, one of those teams that isn't necessarily like blazing high scores every week, but ultra consistent, and it's not like everyone's performing on the same week. It's a case of some guys step up when the other ones dip, which is, as you say, the signs of a good team. We'll go on to the next game now, which is the Dream Team against Ixans. This was the Corona Bowl 13 rematch. We both picked Ben in this one, Chris, and we just about got it right. Nailed by that, 85-83, bringing both of these teams to 4-5. Now, obviously, bringing Ben up and dropping Viv down. And the history of this one all time is 8-12, still in favour of Viv. When games are this close, it's almost a bit of a moot point comparing the points and stuff. Viv got a bit more points from his quarterback, which was a nice pickup, as we sort of ruminated that he would go with Jackson Dart. In the end, and he did, but it was Ben's skill positions, I suppose you could say, and special teams sort of won it. The Lions got 12 pacing, Viv's Jaguars, which again we did question as a bit of a semi-weird choice with 6 points, and Karen Williams got 17. Quentin Johnston came through with the 11 as well. Devontae Adams did have a good day for Viv with the 18, but very close game all in all. I don't think bench-wise we can again really comment too much on either of these two. Ben could have had a bit more with DJ Moore, but can't fault it. Anything else to add from your side here, Chris?
No, I think probably the thing to look for on both sides is the general lack of touchdowns for Viv. And apart from Adams' 2, you look across the board, and there really wasn't anything to write home about. Again, particularly Nico had a tough matchup, but I get that. But that's the problem. It's lack of scoring. But yeah, Jackson Dart, fair play. Looks like he's going to be a very decent fantasy QB. going forward. Whilst Ben, as you said before, got out of town a bit on this one. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor didn't really do a great deal, and I think that's probably the difference between where Ben's team is and where it's been in the rankings in weeks past. That Jonathan Taylor has scored an awful lot of points, which Clay didn't do in this instance.
No, definitely not. And next game was a Founder Bowl. Again, another fairly good game, starting off with the good games in the slate. And if you're counting, we're 2-0 so far on the pick'em, Chris. So Ben Assesti against Tom's Tyrants. Obviously, Ben Assesti's, my dad's team, went that long stretch without a win, but did pick up a win last week. And they've picked up another one. They're 2-7 now, 111 to 99 against Tom, dropping Tom to 5-4, clipping his wings a little bit in the playoff race, but still obviously very much in the hunt. Matthew Stafford, who obviously we turned to, even though Jaden Daniels was playing, stuck with him, and it paid off because that would have changed the result if he went the other way with the 35 points. And then just solid contributions from Pittman, going over 10, same for Jefferson, Montgomery nearly 10, Warren 15, Chase Brown 11 as well. So solid contributions from the skill positions. Fairbairn even getting in on it with 15 points, helping offset the low D score. On the other side of it for Tom, I guess quarterback is sort of where you can point to the difference mostly here, with Daniel Jones only getting 16. Obviously there are some skill positions that didn't do much either, but Drake London did have the 3 touchdown game, so that kind of offsets it. Anything else to add from your perspective, Chris?
No, not really. I mean, you're right. Daniel Jones put up a middling display there, but I think you say DK Metcalf with his 0.6. Even so, with two of them, I'm not sure. I think that's probably where that team would have topped out this week anyway. Mm-hmm. For Dave, it's amazing how much a difference the actual QB makes to him, because that team's all right, and they're starting to get some stuff going there as well. I mean, Warren's pretty touchdown dependent, but Chase Brown looks much better now with Flacco and his receiving core. There's you can't question their ability. So I think going forward, we're going to see a bit of a resurgence from Ben Assesti's in the back end of the season. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be quite enough for him to be able to challenge anything this year.
No, because even though, as you say, team hasn't been that bad, still isn't one of the premier teams in terms of points scored. So record-wise, obviously, it's quite late in the day, and points forward-wise, never say never with the points forward wildcard, but he's behind even then still. So Ben Assesti takes the lead in this series now at 9-8, and we had opposite picks on this one, Chris. I went with Tom's Tyrants, you went with Ben, so you go 3-0, and I go to 2-1 on the week. How will we fare across the rest of the slate? So you took on Make Kitchens Great Again, Chris. Obviously, Ollie was entering this one at 3-5. You were entering this one at 5-3. And it narrows between you two, because Ollie does take this one 92 to 76, which must be if not the lowest output you've had this season, but that's still a pretty okay score, all things considered, especially in a down week. Ollie just got the points he needed, mainly because Brock Bowers decided to be healthy again and B, put it to good use with 31 points, heroic. Goff got 23 as well, but that is pretty much it. Nobody else went over 10 points, but with Mahomes getting pretty much shut down by Buffalo on the other side, only getting 11. You sort of said it in some other games, other than Stephon Diggs, who got a touchdown but still didn't quite get 10 points. Just a bit of a quieter day, but it's more about the QB score, I think it's fair to say, for your side more than anything. I did lock you, Chris, so sorry about that.
It happens.
It does.
But no, it's cool.
Just to rub it in as well, Ollie has now leveled the series against you, was the only thing I was going to say at 7-7.
He's my kryptonite, man. I say it every time. But having said that, though, in some ways, I'm glad that Brock Bowers did score as many points as he did, because my blushes were spared for not believing in the Panthers playing at Green Bay. And why would I? Because Green Bay are a pretty formidable defense, and a pretty decent run defense. But Rico Dowdle turned the tables on them, didn't he? The good news is that I wouldn't have been able to win anyway, even if I had played Dowdle, because I was only going to play him for ETN, and I lost by a fumble again. So that would have come from Javonte on Monday night. So that would have sucked. So I'm glad that kind of didn't get there. But in a down week, as you say, there are some relatively good yardage totals with limited touchdowns, and Mahomes is probably 15 points short. But could have won with a bit more luck and a better selection of Dowdle. But hey, at least we know. At least we know that Rico Dowdle is elite.
Yep, apparently. Yeah, we know apparently that's the case. Yep.
Just before I carry on, it's
Sure.
not all about me. Fair play to Ollie.
Okay.
He got his selection absolutely spot on, and 92 points from a team that's been in the shit for most of the year is pretty damn good going, even if 30 points of that was from one player. Brock Bowers, though, is a absolute stud, as we know.
Oh, yeah, that might put a bit of a spark or a bit of wind into Ollie's sails across the rest of the year. Spoilers, it didn't this week, but we'll get onto that in a bit. You picked yourself as well. Justifiably, Chris, so that's your first drop on the week. It's up to the Pick'em. We'll go to the Goose Bowl next with Ross taking on Pat, and Ross takes the Goose, 109 to 96. He improves to 5-4, dropping the current champ to 3-6 on a 3-game losing streak. So Pat's hopes of repeating, potentially in trouble, but a good day from Ross. 31 points from Josh Allen. T. Higgins as well, he's a new lease of life with Joe Flacco as well. Huge day there. Derek Cameron chipping in with the 12 and just solid scores across the rest of Ross's team, but mainly against those two guys at the top. Pat, as we sort of suggested he might, with Kyler being out, he went straight to Jacoby Brissett, and great call to be fair. He's still got 29 points. Yep. Again, it was just a lack of a really explosive playmaker like Higgins on the other side for Pat, because again, some okay scores there among pretty much the rest of the team, but just nothing too spicy to give him the points he needed to win this one. We did both pick Pat, and you went one step further, Chris. You did lock Pat, which didn't come through here. Ross carries on. History of this one, Ross is now... where's Ross's team? 7-6 all time against Pat, so he takes the slight lead. Anything else of interest here for you, Chris?
Well, Ashton Genty staying a bit of life for Pat is only a good thing for him. Yeah. But yes, Brissett's probably going to be in now for the rest of the year, and I think that's a good thing for Pat. He's going to have the option of Baker or him every week, which again I don't think is the worst two-man tandem in the league. But as you quite rightly said, Nath, it is Ross's play of T. Higgins there that's got him across the line. We've said that it's Josh Allen or bust this team, and generally speaking, it is. He gave him a good foundation in which to win. But T. Higgins got him more than across the line there to get him to that 108. There's really not a lot to shout about in the rest of that team, and it's going to rely on those two dudes to be able to get him up there. But if they can do that for 108 points a week, and half of that is two players, then fair play. Yeah. Fair play indeed.
Yeah, definitely. And then we'll go to the last game of the week, which was the Waypoint Bowl. Gridiron Gang taking on Bucking the Trend. Obviously, Bucking the Trend, leading the Southampton division. Entering this one with the losses elsewhere, that wasn't at threat, but they would obviously like to stretch their lead against Gridiron Gang, who entering at 4-4, looking to get up on the playoff race. And that they do, taking this one 99 to 89, and we both picked Bucking the Trend here, Chris. So we started strong but faded quickly. Just looking at the scores, Lamar Jackson is a welcome return to my side, dropping the 34 points, which we'd obviously already seen by the time we did the podcast last week. James Cook did 13, Rams did 14, but it was Kalman Ongai with DeAndre Swift being out, who sealed the deal and got the win for me, basically, because the points weren't anywhere else there on the bench. So 20 points from him. On the other side of the board, Dak, Mike, to be honest, I thought Mike was going to pull off the Monday night comeback against me, because I think he only needed 35 between Prescott and Pickens to do so. But they only combined for 25 each, basically, so just coming up short there. And then elsewhere, JSN still does well, as does Josh Jacobs and Chase. They all went into double digits, as did the special teams and kicker. But it was Keyshawn Booty's injury probably that cost him here, because Damari Douglas went off. Not all of that production necessarily would have gone to Booty, but quite possibly at least some or enough of it would have done to turn the tide of the result here. And just to pay homage to our good listeners, Chris. Mike had this to say, and I thought I'd include it on the pod. He remarked, the difference in our matchup was that me Patriots receivers wasn't Booty. It turns out he was ass. There you
go. Well, his injury was ass. I give him that.
Yeah, a bit harsh on Booty.
He's been quite good at this point. You're right, and I think that this is the difference really here is that Lamar score. 34 or 33 and a half points gives you a really solid foundation in which to build, and you can't really beat it. Dak's been great for most of the year, but that stack didn't work. I mean, in this occasion, Cowboys weren't that great either. On that Monday night, I don't know if Tyler was even there. I don't think he was at the time. But I'm not going to bash him for not playing him there. But yeah, carrying a player is hard, and it's hard to win when you do that. And on this occasion, did all he could, I would say, with those skill positions. You can't really go much better than that, I would say, as an average skill positions defense and kicker. But yeah, that additional pointage from you, especially Mononga, which was a great stream, by the way, in that ridiculous game, got you across the line. And yeah, again, it's a worthy win, shall we say? If a little bit unlucky for Mike, but he's scored some big points this year, and he's got enough at the top of that division that he's in to be able to sustain a loss.
Definitely, and mildly surprising after all the points he was dropping. He's now dropped 2 straight, but much better certainly this week than he was the week previous. So I'm sure he'll get back to it sooner rather than later. So on the week, Chris, I was 2-4 on the pick and you were 3-3, so not one of our finest, and we both whiffed on our locks, so we'll aim to do better this week. So we'll move swiftly on to the league news now. So transaction-wise, Coach Nunn splashing some cash, I think possibly for the first time this year. He spent $10 on Chase McLaughlin and $15 on Alec Pierce, Chris. Freddie also added Torrey Horton for $2, which was a fair enough add when he made I say when he made the addition, probably when he scheduled the waiver claim, but probably after he did that, Shaheed got traded to the Seahawks. Guess who has Shaheed, Chris?
Well, yes, of course. That's a problem.
Yeah, but it was only $2, so live and learn, it's fine. He did lose Tucker Kraft though for the year, which was a shame, not only for him, but obviously the Green Bay Packers and Tucker Kraft himself. So he had been pretty revelatory. I think he was the top option in that offense, passing offense at least. So sucks for everyone involved there. If we look at the standings, as always, Chris, just jump in if anything piques your interest as I'm going along with all this. So Southampton division bucking the trend, still at the top of 63 despite losing 2 games in the trot, bless you. Tom's Tyrants at 5-4, they couldn't capitalise on the bucking the trend loss this week, and Ross though quietly with a 3-game win streak to improve to 5-4 and firmly insert himself into the playoff race as well. A couple of 4 or 5 teams there. The Dream Team in Mate Kitchen's great again, and then Golden Bears at 2-7. In the Portsmouth division, Jeff is still undefeated, of course, 9-0, pretty much cruising to playoffs at this point. Myself and you, Chris, are 5-4 behind, so we are probably almost certainly looking at a wildcard versus the division, but there are still 5 games to go, so you never know, but wildly unlikely. Jeff does not win the division, of course. Ben improves to 4-5 as well. Pat drops to 3-6, and my dad improves to 2-7. So we've got an interesting thing going on, Chris, because take Jeff out of the equation, and my dad and Freddie, and Pat, to be fair. But basically what I was going to say was we've got, 7 teams that are 5-4 and 4-5. The wild card is 5-4 at the moment, and Mike is 6-3, so he's not terribly ahead of the pack, you would say either. And is again equally, Pat's at 3-6, and even the 2-7 teams aren't dramatically far behind necessarily either. So yeah, it's shaping up to be quite the playoff race as we enter the double-digit weeks. If we take a look in terms of the playoffs, if it were to finish today, obviously Jeff and Mike would top the divisions, get the bye. You, Chris, would get the traditional wild card, as would I, now that I've improved to the same record as you and Tom. And then the points forward wild card would go to Tom, who just happens to be the next in line anyway. So kind of as per all how the ranks are, just on high scoring teams. So Mike is at the top. He leapfrogs you, Chris, just about, but it's quite close between you. You're both knocking on for 1,000. Then it's me and Jeff just over 900. Then there's a gaggle of teams in the sort of mid-800s mark, and we turn to the bottom. Ollie's still yet to crack 700 points, the only team yet to do so, but he has 4 wins, one of which coming obviously last week. 2 and 7 teams ahead, just ahead of him in the pot. I say just ahead. The next closest is about 90 ahead, so those are the 2 teams, and even my dad's team has scored 130 more points, near enough. Yeah, it has 2 less wins to show for it, and so that's how it goes, I suppose, sometimes. In terms of points conceded, Pat is at the top here now. He is a bit ahead of the rest at 945. So again, this 3 and 6 record is partly against opposition, or given his scoring is fairly middle of the pack. Ben and myself, there are the next top 2, just around 900. You're not far behind, Chris. And then we've sort of got the middle of the pack in the high to mid 800s as well. We turn to the bottom. Freddie at 2 and 7 with 830 conceded, so he's not maximised those low points conceded. Viv is though with 4 and 5 and 820 points conceded. In fact, that's amount he's scored pretty much as well. Tom is definitely benefiting from it, as is Ross and Jeff, of course. All 3 of those have winning records. All 3 have conceded less than 800 points. Only Jeff has scored more than 863, so they are definitely getting a bit of the rub of the green there, outside of Jeff, I mean. In terms of the breakdown, you remain at the top because you had an 0-11 week last week. Not often you see an 0-11 with a score of in the 70s, Chris, so very fortunate to have that, but at least you're still leading the breakdown. Jeff is unsurprisingly second, and Mike is third after he's obviously blitzed it. All you 3 have over 60 wins in the breakdown. I'm not far behind at 59. Then we get towards the middle of the pack. Ben is over 500 as well, 54 and 45. Pat, interestingly, is at about 500. So again, just going into the points against, he has been a bit unfortunate there to have the 3 and 6 record, as is my dad, who's only at 46 and 53. Yeah, obviously 2 and 7 as well. Tom, again, he's got a losing record, but a winning record in real terms, as does Ross. And then the ones you would kind of expect there to be more towards the bottom in Freddie and Ollie. In terms of coach score, 3 teams with about 75 left on the bench, and Ollie and Mike not far behind in the low 80s. It's fairly tight towards the top. Pat's at 90 as well, and then I'm just under 100 as well. So obviously a mix of good scoring teams there and not. But obviously the lower ones definitely maximising that output. We turn to the bottom. My dad obviously 110, could have had more. Same for Tom, but he has got a good record, so maybe showing the team is as good as the record shows. Chris, you've left 130 on the bench, given you are one of the highest scoring teams compared to Mike, who is obviously higher up in this metric. You net overall team score have outscored Mike by a little bit, so you are definitely leading the way. Jeff, again, 9-0, could have had even more points as well. And then Freddie, obviously at 2 and 7 points, has been a problem on the bench. Far and away the leader at 150, to about 20 points more than Jeff there at the bottom. So lots of interesting statistical points. In terms of milestones, my dad has notched his 125th career win, so we'll give you a little congratulations there. And Ross also notched his 75th regular season win, so good job there. Check out the co-pilots trademark power rankings if you haven't already. The trade deadline passed, Chris. No more trades. But the NFL trade deadline was interesting, or semi-interesting at least. But we'll get to the previews now, Chris. Week 10. So definitely entering the interesting part of the season, as always. So this week we are going. We are within the division, so it's an intra-divisional week. On the docket, we have Gridiron Gang against Pakistan, which is the Brady Bowl. The Dream Team against Oakland Golden Bears, which is the Bristol Bowl. Bucking the Trend against Tom's Tyrants, which is some intrigue for the Southampton division, because if Tom wins that, he brings himself level to Mike, and if Mike wins, he obviously puts himself 2 clear of Tom, and depending on what happens in Ross's game, could be 2 clear of the next closest. We've got Plymouth Pandas, Ross's current iteration, taking on Make Kitchens Great Again in the Name Change Bowl, although Ollie's not really been doing that this year, but we'll go with it. Again, that's an intrigue in terms of keeping up in the playoff race. We've got Ixan against Forge Flyers again, which is the Friendship Bowl. Again, some intrigue there, 5 and 4 from 5. And Great Scott against Bare Necessities, which is the winningest team against the tied losingest team. A similar repeat of when they were both undefeated and defeated. Where do you want to go with the marquee matchup this week, Chris?
Yeah, jeopardy across the board here, I think. But I'm going to go with Ixan and versus Forge Flyers because of the meaning it has.
Friendship Bowl, Corona Bowl rematch, playoff intrigue. I think you're justified with that choice. It has everything. So here we go. Marquee matchup for week 10. Okay, so yeah, you are 5-4, Chris. Carrying into a losing streak. Ben is from 5. Coming off a win. No one's played yet in this one after that dreadful Thursday night game. We'll come back to that when we have some players involved. 93 to 91 is the projection in favour of you here, so profile to be a tight one. In the history of this matchup all time, 16-7, that's not so tight in your favour. We'll take a look at the lineups. You have JJ McCarthy in for Patrick Mahomes, who goes on to bye, so bold stream, like it, we'll see how that goes. Elsewhere, AJ Brown also comes back from the bye into the lineup, as does Emeka Egbuka, I believe, as well. And Rico Dowdle's obviously coming in here as well. So wins have changed for your team because that's dropping all of Stephon Diggs, Javonte Williams, who's on a bye, and Terry McLaurin to the bench. On Ben's side of the board, I believe he's unchanged. So you were rolling with the 30 personnel, Chris, and Ben is rolling with 20 personnel. What say you about this one?
I think this is a bit of a QB. It should be a QB bomb or a QB burst for me, and I think that Drake May has been the epitome of consistency for Ben throughout the course of the year. I think for that and the Patriots as well, to be honest. In that matchup against Tampa, I think there could be points in that. I think that he's growing into the season, and I think that you've got someone who's safe as houses. For me, JJ McCarthy is. And I think for the Vikings is a bit of a flyer. From what I've seen of him so far, I like the fact that he's good in fantasy. In real life, I'm throwing a huge amount, but this is literally his 4th game in the NFL. Yeah. So I'm feeling better as the weeks go on. He looks better, but the efficiency that he has with the arsenal of players that he has. Is what I'm hanging my hat on here. And he can run, and he's not afraid to. So let's hope he does. Baltimore are getting a little bit better on defense. They're definitely getting healthier, and they're not the defense they were a couple of weeks ago. But having said that, I still fancy his chances at home, and that's where I'm going. Skill position wise, though, for me, I feel really good about that once again. Say we got some tough defenses in there, mind you. So Green Bay, Houston, the Berlin game. Who very well knows what will come of that. So there could be some bit of weirdness in there. Egbuka against New England as well. We know that there's going to be some heavy shadowing there, shall we say? And then Rico Dowdle, doesn't matter. He's literally a one-man team at that. But for Ben, I mean, I'm trying to see where I can get some wins with McCarthy playing and Addison on the other side. Maybe that might be. Say Christian Watson's always injured, but it's those two runners for me. It's Taylor against Atlanta and Williams against San Francisco. And I think that's where Ben will absolutely strike, as well as the Lions D playing in Washington against a second-string QB who happens to be Marcus Mariota, who's been around the block, but and certainly not a slouch. But at the same time, there's a reason why Jaden Daniels got a dislocated. That's because they can't block. So having said that, I think that it's going to be a runoff between Taylor and Williams and Robinson and Dowdle. I've got to back my runners, but I'm going to go for myself. But don't be surprised if it really comes down to the QB.
Yeah, no, this is actually, I think, a really hard one to call because I think objectively you do have, on balance, the stronger skill position group. It might not be quite as top-heavy as Ben's is, but it's definitely deeper. It's quarterback where, the difficulty comes from it because May has proven to be a very proven commodity this year, and McCarthy has had some good results, like you say, but it's still his 4th career start. Week 1, he got a little bit lucky against the Bears. The game script sort of, he had to kind of cover, which he pulled off, to be fair. So it's doable. But you sort of said it. You do have some pretty tough matchups across the board. I think Dowdle against the Saints is the only one that I'm probably not overly worried about. Whereas for Ben, I think it's a bit easier. There are some trickier ones there. I will highlight Quentin Johnston as well against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh have been absolutely bleeding points to receivers, especially sort of the more vertical ones, which obviously Johnston does do his damage. So that could definitely be, if we're talking about Ixam win next week, that he would probably be very much involved in that. I think I am just going to slightly lean Ben just on the basis of, he has Jonathan Taylor in what's been a pretty good matchup against the Falcons. He's coming off a low game. Daniel Jones is maybe being, I wouldn't say found out, but maybe they have some tape on him in the offense now, so they might try and keep run the ball a bit better with Jonathan Taylor. May has just been legit as well. Like I said, it's the quarterback spot that's just a variable, but I absolutely, like you say, Chris, I think McCarthy could have a good day as well. But yeah, I'm going to go with Ben in this one. Injury-wise, Watson, I imagine still just the return from his knee injury, so he should be good to play. McLaurin as well, I think he was fine. Stevenson's been ruled out with a toe injury. Chubb, who cares? And we'll move on. So we'll go to the next game then, which is the Great Scott against Bare Necessities. So yeah, the winningest team against the tied losingest team. I don't know, 2-7 projections. Understandably have the 9-0 team winning at 92-79. That is partly because my dad doesn't have a kicker at the moment. I did think Fairbairn was ruled out already, but I see he's questionable here, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to play, and as such has a 0-point projection. So it's a bit closer, but we'll still be favouring Jeff. Let's see, lineup change wise, Jeff is unchanged. Why change what works? And then for Bare Necessities, I would imagine unchanged as well, given Fairbairn is still in the lineup. Actually, no, sorry, Chase Brown does come out, obviously, because he's gone on to bye. I think that might possibly be the only change, and that would mean, I'm not sure who's coming, maybe Joe Moore, Debo, probably, I'm going to say Debo Samuel. So my dad is going with the 20 personnel, Jeff is going with the 11 personnel. The history of this matchup all time, Bare Necessities are 2-3 against Great Scott. Is this week the week, Chris, that Jeff basically gets his plane ticket to the playoffs?
Yes, it certainly is. There's some juicy matchups there for him across the board, and I think that we saw last week, despite that there were some low scorers, shall we say, on offense, I think they still got across the line. This week, you look there, McCaffrey can continue getting used. Nakura against San Fran, who were just decimated. Harrison on a resurgence. Warren in a prime time overseas matchup against the Falcons, who, let's be honest, haven't been great all year. Dunzane against the Giants, who haven't been great, and Pittsburgh in a home tie against Pittsburgh. And you just mentioned there about their proficiency to lose points over the top. For me, it's a complete team. And again, we've talked earlier on about consistency. I think you can't really beat that from your dad's point of view. And I think Dave's had a really decent run, and he'll continue to have a decent run. This team's got points in it. The Eagles are going to flat Jordan Love. I just think that's the way it's going to be in that defensive matchup. But for me, there's lots of question marks over whether Debo will get the same treatment with Mariota. And I think they should. He's talented enough. I think Jefferson again, and we talked about with JJ McCarthy. Pittman. I like Michael Pittman. I think he's a really underrated receiver. And Stafford again, especially with Nakura on the other side, is a good foil. So there's definitely defense there for Dave, and I think that he'll put up a good fight. But form is form, and for me, Great Scott has got the form intact. So I'm going to put the mockers on that and lock him for this week, taking it to 10 wins in a row, double-digit wins.
Unbelievable.
Sorry, man.
You
Are you going to do it?
Yeah. I can't. I'd already written down that I locked Jeff in. We don't do lock bros on this podcast. No. Out of principle, no, it's fine. You take it, it's fine. No, but I was going to do it for the you get the lock or you hopefully get the bad juju and Jeff loses the game. So, no, I completely agree, Jeff. I do think there are, I sort of said it earlier, Jeff's team is good overall. It's one of the highest scoring teams. It doesn't have these ceiling weeks. I think he had one against me. Doesn't typically have these ceiling weeks. He averages, I think, about 100 a week, and it's almost always about 100 a week, which is a good place to be, don't get me wrong. There will be a lost game coming at some point, whether it's the regular season or not, because, let's be honest, if he wins too many more, we're talking about perfect season, regular season at least. That's on watch at this point. Is this one of these teams that coasts its way to the playoffs, basically, but then when you get to the playoffs, you have the cream of the crop, and then does just get toppled by one of those teams? I don't know. It kind of feels like maybe that kind of not as extreme as like that Steelers team that went 10-0 that year and was a complete fraud. Not that bad, but you know what I'm saying. And Jeff, again, he will fully tell you this himself. Credit to him. The record does flatter him a bit. He deserves to have a strong winning record. It should not be 9-0, but fair play.
I agree, and you look at the stats, and we put up there before. He is I think the second lowest scored against team in the league. So I would say there's been a few weeks where you had to break the music out.
I don't think it's not been that level because his scoring has been fine. But yes, you're right. Opposition would have had that level of scores. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's there. But this will be a stern test, and I think if you can get through a week like this, where it looks like Dave's going to be able to put together a pretty good week, then we're on to talk about championship contention, which it seems a bit early, but I think it's probably warranted in this sense if it goes 10 in a row. Yeah,
definitely. There are some tricky matchups, I would say, for Jeff's team, but again, leading into what we said earlier, for when any players might have a slightly bad day, there's usually another one there to compensate, and I just think top side overall against my dad's team, should be enough to see him through. Injury wise, clean about half, other than Kemi Fairbairn, of course, the starting lineup. Obviously Daniels is out with that seemingly not so bad elbow injury. Didn't look it would be that way, but he might be back sooner rather than later, but probably not overly soon. Tillman, I believe, is coming off IR as well, but probably not going to play him. Carrier's questionable. I think he's going to play, but Jeff probably will not play him anyway. We'll go to the next game then, which is the Brady Bowl Gridiron Gang against Pakistan. Pat bested me in this matchup earlier in the season, but I'm 5-4 at the moment, coming off a 2-game win streak. Pat is on a 3-game slide at 3-6. He does have the projected win though, 106 to 5, and as you can see, this is the first game we've got actually where there's points on the board. The first two obviously haven't had any. This one's making up for it because Pat has 33 to my 11. His 33 is courtesy of Genti, who got 12, and the Broncos got 21, and Colton Sutton, who got 2, and J.K. Dobbins didn't do too badly, but certainly compared to Sutton, at least, who got 8, so not the best starts for me. Better for Pat. History of this matchup all time. I'm 9-5 against Pakistan in terms of lineup changes. Sutton did come back into the lineup for me, wish he didn't, in favour of Trey Tucker. And J.K. Dobbins also came in over Kyle Monongai. However, I do have an injury guard in place. I'm imagining Swift will play, but he is listed as questionable. But if Swift does not play, Monongai does take the place of J.K. Dobbins. So just to mention that, I'm going with the third personnel. On Pat's side of the board, Baker Mayfield comes into the starting lineup over Jacoby Brissett after Mayfield comes back from bye. And I think Jameson Williams also comes into the starting lineup, Chris, over Bam Knight. I believe those are the only two changes. So Pat is going with the 11 personnel seemingly getting a bit more popular here. And so Pat had an interesting nugget here, Chris, and this was going to lead me into what way I picked it. We were just chatting. He sort of said, it seems more often than not, Pat, from listening, again, we have listeners, who knew, says that typically when we pick against Pat, he normally wins. So I was going to go with the old, let's do the bad juju. I'm going to pick Pat this week. And even me thinking that into existence has screwed myself because Pat has 33 to 11 point lead already. And last time around, I seem to remember, Chris, we reviewed this very same game. Pat already had an early lead from the Thursday night games then, and I was confident or bullish enough or foolish enough to think I could overturn it then and still picked myself. Nay, I'm not doing that today. I'm giving you my pick first. Pat is going this game, Chris.
Well, yeah, absolutely. He's definitely taken an advantage there. Look, for me, Pat's team there to get a 33-point head start in quite a close game that I think it will be, it puts him in the driving seat. However, you talk about tough matchups in the previous, and I think that look at Trey McBride playing Seattle, and I'm not really too happy about that.
That's a good matchup for tight ends. I will. You normally see with the really good defenses, the tight ends normally the Achilles heel.
It's a terrible place to go, isn't it?
It is, but he's also one of the best tight ends, and it has been a relatively good matchup. So,
fair.
Point taken.
But my point stands, but my point stands with this as well, is that bloody receiver stack is still going. We are in week 10 now, and I get it. I get it that one or two of them it will work some weeks, but it may not work the others. And I'm not sure about Jameson Williams' stats thus far this season, but I'm going to bet that they haven't been overly good, and have been maybe a tad lackluster.
I think he's wide receiver 40 in our scoring now. He is coming off a 13-point game, but that's previous to the bye, following up a donut, 13 before that, and then a few lower scoring games.
Extremely
inconsistent is the one. To be fair to Pat, I don't think he has actually played Jameson Williams for a number of weeks now. He has moved off the stack, but yeah, seemingly for this week, obviously going back to it.
Yeah. Justice for Khalil Shakir on the bench against Miami, by the way. That defense sucks.
Well, against receivers, they don't, interestingly. But that's probably because you could just run on them. So.
They suck ass, all of them. That team sucks. And then Baker versus New England. You never know how that may go and shake out. However, you've got your QB score in your pocket, so it doesn't matter. For you, it's Lamar and bust, I think. Gibbs there, he's going to be able to chip in. I think the Bills against Miami's a reasonable play as well. But if Jackson doesn't score, then I don't think your team's going to score either. I think that, again, those two, that Sutton and Dobbins last night were millstones around your team, to be honest, particularly Sutton. Yeah. Though I'm not sure you had a great deal else where to go with that.
I could have gone. I would never in a million years. The plan with always this week was obviously to play Sutton because reasonably good matchup and whatnot. We'll come out of that in a second. Dalton Kincaid probably would be a better option than I'd say, but was never going to do it, like I say. So.
Exactly. So yeah, we're not here to be playing hindsight here. So for me, I think that Pat's advantage at this stage puts him in the driving seat, and I don't think that his matchups are terrible, but I still don't like his stack and his QB players mid. So yeah, Pat just.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to be foolish enough like I was the last time around to say, I can overturn a 20 blah, blah, blah point deficit. No. As I already said, I'm picking Pat as well. I do still think I can have a good week despite that. It would take a number of Pat's players, having low scores, which could happen. I'm not going to sit here and predict it, though. I'm also not going to say what I would do differently with the Jameson Williams, as you've already alluded to, Chris. Pat can figure that out himself if he doesn't want to play JMO. But he'll probably score this week, so it's fine. I think that there is some hope for my team in terms of having a good score. Again, I'm not going to say to win. Like you say, Jackson, hopefully being back and healthy, that could be a spicy game against Minnesota. Albeit, I was listening to an NFL podcast that said back when Jackson played Brian Flores when he was in Miami, he's obviously the DC of Minnesota now, he did do quite a good job of neutralising him with quite interesting, exotic sort of blitzing game plans. So we'll see if that bears fruit this time around. But Cook and Gibbs could go nuclear on these two teams. As you said, Miami suck. Cook, I think, already did well in the first matchup, and Gibbs coming off a low week last week. Washington also on defense completely sucks. So there is some hope. Even Wandale might get involved, Chris, because you know who sucks against receivers? the Bears really suck against receivers. So,
as we saw,
yeah, I get it. Wan'Dale's not the sexiest choice, but it didn't quite pay off last week. But if it's going to come good, it will be this time around. So, and you never know. Like I said, if Swift doesn't play, he's questionable. Monongo comes in, that raises my ceiling a bit more because whilst 8 points is okay, it's obviously not going to do anything to help offset 2 points from Cortland Sutton. Oh yeah, we can get to this now. That Thursday night game, I don't know if you watched the highlights, Chris. Yes, Chris. That game sucked. I watched I watched the game blind. I usually watch the Thursday night games blind because why not? I don't work Fridays. I just wake up and watch them. And I got to halftime and like obviously knowingly having Dobbins and Sutton and it being terrible at that point, I'm like, I'm just gonna have to look. And I was just like, seriously, like what was that game? Like 10, like not even the punters had bad games.
Yeah, Thursday night games are weird anyway, but yeah, that one was not a good advert for the league.
No,
at all.
Definitely not. The Broncos are a weird team as well. Like that they are going back to why I used the metaphor of the Steelers to sort of unfairly probably align Jeff's team there, but the Broncos scream of that to me. They're 8-2. They are not that good. They're like the amount of one-score games. I think was it the Vikings last year or the year before where they squeaked through so many one-score games and then they kind of got found out. It's the exact same thing with the Broncos. They're not a good team. Anyway, enough. Next game, the Dream Team take on Oakland Golden Bears in the Bristol Bowl. These two are both coming off losses. Viv is obviously still alive in the playoff hunt. He has dropped 3 on the trot though, so he's got to turn it around quickly. But projections say he's going to here, 90-71. Freddie did have Bo Nix last night, of which, yeah, that's major. Yeah, in fact, where's the sound effect? That's definitely worthy of that. He only got 8 points, not great. Lineup changes for Freddie. I think Sam Laporta comes from the waiver into the lineup. Brees Hall comes in from bye. And I think that might be the 2 changes for Dallas to the bench there. And obviously Tucker is gone. On the other side for Viv, let's see here. I think Rashad White comes back in from bye. I think Zach Charbonnet also comes in. Not entirely sure who played last week, but we'll mosey on. So 20 personnel for Viv, 31 personnel, heavy set for Freddie. History of this matchup all time. The Dream Team are 2-0 against Freddie. Does Freddie have a chance to get his first win against Viv, Chris?
Well, I mean, the fact that he hasn't changed his team yet and Jackson Dart's still in over Jalen Hurts is probably the headline here.
I don't know. I kind of feel like Dart might be a better play than Hurts this week. Maybe, possibly.
Yeah, maybe. That's the case. Then that's bold call. I like it. But yeah, for me, every time a QB whiffs on any given day, as the opposition you've got the chance. Mm-hmm. And again, I think for Freddie, when you see who could perhaps save the day, well, is it Smith against Green Bay? Maybe not. Is it Hall versus Cleveland? Definitely not. Is it Walker against Arizona? Probably not. Is it Tracy against Chicago? Well, they're all mid-tier options, like the Panthers did against New Orleans. But I'm really sorry, Freddie. When you've got 7 points from your QB, that puts you at a significant disadvantage as it is. And for Viv, I don't think he needs to try too hard here. Because again, he's got a QB that's in form and for fantasy purposes looks really good. Mm-hmm. Nico's playing Jacksonville, which should be fine. I know that Davis Mills is throwing the ball, but actually, Davis Mills is legit. I don't mind. Anyone can come fight me on that. Davis Mills is all right.
I agree.
McConkey will be okay. Adams has been probably one of the value picks of the season. Turns out that he's always been elite. He's just been let down by a few terrible franchises over the last couple of years. And White and Charbonnet look like they're ascendant in their offenses, and the Browns are going to beat the shit out of the Jets. So happy days, Viv, for me.
Yep, and you stole my lock of Jeff, so I'm just going to go ahead and take this one right here. Passes the mirror test, I think. Viv has lost 3 games in a row, and yes, okay, it's a slow start from Bo Nix, but there's still some other players on Freddie's team. But yeah, no, I as you say, 8 points of a quarterback, set you back quite early. Whatever route Viv goes with quarterback wise, it's going to get more than 8 points. It's going to get reasonably more than 8 points. that's going to set him up nicely. Skill position wise, like you kind of already said, it's probably more favours of anyway. So yeah, I have nothing further to add. Injury wise, probably nothing of note here as well. So we'll move on to the next game then, which is bucking the trend against Tom's Tyrants. So yeah, this is very intriguing. This you obviously went Friendship Bowl for the marquee matchup, which fully understand. I think this probably would be the next best game, certainly in terms of playoff intrigue, because this could make the Southampton division very interesting or lead to one of these coaches being very happy. After the result of this one, Mike is at 6-3, Tom is 5-4, both coming off of losses. Mike coming off 2. Mike is projected to win though, 94, 78. He also has 10 points from Troy Franklin. I said to Mike, I actually kind of pretty much rated that pick up and play. I had half a mind to play both him and Sutton just to sort of hopefully lock in a good score. I'm glad I didn't in the end, because that wouldn't have been good output. But for Mike, it's good measure, 10 points from a guy you just plucked off free agency when you're in buy and injury week hell. You'll absolutely take it. That kind of confidence carries through. He's going with Darnold this week with Prescott on a bye. And Darnell Mooney also comes in, as does Keyshawn Judkins from bye as well, dropping all of Chase, Pickens, and Booty, who's obviously injured to the bench. He's already been ruled out, by the way, as is Bucky Irving. He could have done with him back this week, boy. On the other side of the board, Tom's projection will get better because he has Rashid Rice on a bye. He will bring in Saquon Barkley, no doubt. He could possibly look to make some other changes as well. DeAndre Swift, if he plays in a cake matchup, he could bring in. And he also has Jordan Love there, who he could opt to play over Daniel Jones should he choose to do so, but unchanged at the moment. So yeah, is Mike going to get back into winning ways? Maybe go over 100 again for this time, Chris?
Yeah, for me, I think there's some really smart and astute planning there, some roster planning, because he's traded one stack for, I think, a better stack in this current instance, and Sam Darnold and JSN have been linking up the whole of this season in a way that, as I mentioned on the pod last week, Seattle haven't seen for 45 years, and that's a long time. Look, that matchup there against Arizona, I think that's going to be a really, really good game as well. But there's no doubt that there'll be some points between those two, and that's where the foundation for Mike's win this week is going to be built on, and I'm going to go as far as saying that early. Jacobs and Judkins both are going to get used heavily. I think Judkins is going to use very heavily against the Jets this week, and has looked every bit that workhorse back. An absolutely immense talent in a pretty terrible team, and the Texans against the Jaguars should be a bit of a beatdown and a turkey shoot, because let's be honest, the Jags haven't been that great. Having said that, though, they have just added to their lineup of wide receivers, which is something else for Trevor Lawrence to throw an interception to. On the other side, as we know, Daniel Jones in an MVP season, maybe. But those Berlin games are weird, and
I hate to say it, I think the MVP ship might have sailed. He's still very good. You keep going with your analysis in the international game. I'm going to look up the odds of the MVP at the moment, but I think Sam Darnold is actually he's definitely ahead of.
I'm having that, because you know who's going to win their division? The Colts. The Colts are going to win their division.
Yeah, but look who else is in the division.
Yeah, what? Fair, but they're going to win it. So, and if you can win it, you can get out, you can have a run. And I think the Colts, on both sides of the ball, are average enough to be able to get there. Just saying. I think they're all right. But yeah, this week, I would back Darnold over Jones to score more points, sadly. As much as I think Daniel Jones' resurgence is worthy of our praise.
Do you want a good stat? Sorry, just as you finished off the damage. So, not only is Danny Dimes, according to BetSuite, at 365, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th in the betting odds, he's in fact tied with fellow teammate Jonathan Taylor.
Not bad, to be fair. That's in good company. So, I think the bookies know that the Colts are going to be able to get some traction going this year. So, once they get out of that, mate, once they get out of that division, once they get going and then playoffs, you wait. So, that's where he's going to come good. Just you wait. But look, for the rest of the offense there, I mean, look, Metcalf's got a tough matchup. Alden's got a less than tough matchup, and London's been fed some more. But yeah, we'll see if that translates over to Berlin. We've got Rashid Rice out, of which, let's be frank, oh my days. Ooh. Who are we going with?
Saquon Barkley. Saquon
Barkley, that's good. That'll do. He comes in, but against Green Bay, which isn't great, but it might do.
Sneaky, not been amazing either.
Saquon Barkley, he should. Yeah, I agree. I mean, when he's good, he's good.
Awesome, but that was like the cakest of cake matchups. Outside that, he's obviously been not probably what you would have wanted as your solid, but not first round pick level.
Yeah, so. Exactly that. Yeah, not nuclear, but a good one to come in. And Achan, as we know, has been decent, but again,
that's a good matchup too, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's really well used. So yeah, I think Mike's got the advantage here. Darnell Mooney's probably the only question mark for me over that team. Everything else, I'm really happy with. For Tom, I think again he's got the right components, especially at the moment where he could end up with London, Achan, and potentially Barkley with some serious volume. But it may well come again down to the QB. And I think Darnold and JSN are going to outscore anything that you could possibly put against them.
Yeah. I mean, Swift against the Giants again, assuming he plays. Well, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like because Ben Johnson today said that he might ride the hot hand with Monongo's obviously breakout game last week. Never like to hear that when you're playing a player because you know exactly what way that can go if it doesn't go in your favour. I kind of like the Mooney in terms of the strategy because if the Colts can take away London on the other side, then in theory Mooney gets a bit more work. So it's a bit of game theory there. But yeah, I mean, I think Tom could still have a good day here. For me, I think quarterback's sort of the thing holding him back this week. So I don't entirely love either the Danny Dimes or Love in this one. Really does feel like, again, where Jonathan Taylor is just going to run a lot against Atlanta for me. So I think just to split the hairs, Mike gets the win, but there's a lot to like about Mike's team this week as well. We're going to the last game of the week then, which is Plymouth Pandas against Make Kitchens Great Again in the Name Change Bowl. So this is probably not the one to end with, but here we go. 88-76 is the projection in favour of Ross's team, who, to be fair, is on a 3-game win streak. Both these teams coming for one, in fact. Ross is 5-4. Again, depending what happens elsewhere, he could be tied for the lead of the Southampton division come the end of the week. The 3 points on the board, courtesy of Brock Bowers, not quite the nuclear 31 he dropped against you only the week previous, Chris, leading to, obviously, that lower projection for Ollie. In other terms of other changes, Goff, I think, remains in the lineup. He probably was in last week. I think... I'm not sure what the changes are. We'll just take it as it is. But yeah, there's definitely some question marks against Ollie's team, which you'll get onto in a second. On the other side for Ross's team, Garrett Wilson comes back from the bye into the lineup. I think TJ Hawkinson, and Alec Pierce come in as well. Because Ross is in bye week hell. Didn't you know? Yeah, lots of guys dropping out. A bit of a piecemeal team for Ross this week, which could make for, shall we say, a competitive game that's mildly offset by Tetero McMillan. Just before you do your analysis, Chris, he suffered a hamstring injury in practice, I think today, and is now listed as questionable. Never a good sign. Midweek downgrades and injuries of that, certainly of those soft tissue injuries. So I would say very iffy at this point for him to play, and Aaron Jones obviously questionable with an injury himself. Have fun reviewing this one, Chris.
Yeah, well, the first thing I'm going to say is I take a very dim view about anyone carrying 3 QBs in any given season. But
it's not even like 3 good QBs. It's like Jared Goff and Tyler Lawrence.
3 mid QBs. So what we're doing, we're just playing just like mid QB roulette. I don't know what we're doing here. Ollie's team scored 92 points against me this week. I don't think they're going to be scoring 92 points against Ross this week. Not to be bitter or anything, but Brock Bowers. So how do you go from 31 points to 29? You play the Broncos away. That's what you do. Look, for me, Goff against Washington, it could and should be okay. It probably won't be though. And Waddle seems to have had a resurgence with no Hill being the number one dude. Fair play. Outside of that, I can't trust Jones and Krosky. Merritt Krosky, especially with being a bit, I'm sure Jones is questionable because he's old, and McMillan, as you mentioned, is injured. And then the Bears are going to get striped against the Giants anyway. So, look, there's not really... for Ollie, again, I don't want to be disparaging, but there's not really a lot to write home about. You just hope you're crossing your fingers and hoping at this point. Whilst for Ross, he still has the ability to be able to hang on to Josh Allen playing in Miami, which is what you really want to see. Aside from that, there's a lot of speculative plays in there, but he still has Derrick Henry.
Garrett Wilson's going to get the volume. He's done okay with that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with Lamar back, Henry, like you say.
Alec Pierce is going to receive something.
Yeah. He's been good.
So again, I don't want to be too negative about this game, which I think it could be a bit of a low scoring one. But again, we're talking about QB differences here, and I think Allen will heartily outscore Goff in this matchup, and it won't be close in terms of that. I don't hate the fact that there's a lot of players in that Baltimore Minnesota game as well, which, as you mentioned earlier on, could get spicy. But yeah, if you're going to be in a game like that, maybe the defense isn't the place to be. But then again, I'm not sure the Bears defense is a great play either. So hey, look, let's go with Ross, because I think that he might score more than 2 points from a key player.
This is going to be one of the weirdest games to keep an eye on Sunday.
Usually.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to. This is going to be like the Broncos against the Raiders, but it's entertaining.
That can't possibly be.
These two found a way.
They will. They'll find it.
I'm picking Ross, by the way, just because Josh Allen and supporting cast isn't as bad as it initially seemed, relative to the far and away lowest scoring team in the league. So that brings us to the end of another show. We didn't quite book it with the 45 minutes, but we're back down to an hour, so I'll take that as a win, Chris.
That's good.
As I'm sure you will, to put your feet up for a bit before you go to bed. Thank you for joining us as always again, Chris.
Great to be here. So we got through 10 weeks, give or take. So it's marching on quick, guys.
Absolutely is.
We'll be the playoffs no time soon.
Thanksgiving's just around the corner. I always love it. If you would like to watch the games at Money Again on Sunday, you are more than welcome to do so. But outside of that, all that's left for me to do is wish that you have a great weekend. Best of luck in your matchups, unless you're playing me, of course.